Okay. So we've got the recording, and so this will be going on to YouTube when we finish. So I don't know, Keith was a speaker on here last week. And you know what, Keith, I don't know if you noticed or not, but your video got actually more than 700 views. I think 1,500 views, if I'm not wrong. Now, that was just amazing, really. Was it on, I think on Sunday I looked at it, it was 700. And then I looked at it yesterday, it was like 1.5K.
There must be people with fat fingers hitting the wrong thing.
Well, I just wonder whether it was Keith just going back and watching the video all the time.
I haven't looked at it at all myself, but I did get a message. I did get a message from a lady looking to connect because she has some health issues because she saw that video.
Brilliant.
Wow.
So there you are, Kay. This is just an endorsement. Like these videos, I don't edit them. They just raw. They just go out on YouTube afterwards, and then someone might pick it up and they say, Keith's video was just, whoa. I mean, I've had like, I don't know, 10 or 15 views of other videos, and his was 1.5K. And I thought, what has he done? What have we done here? Like, you know, so all the best to Keith then. Those people who are watching the videos will probably I got a few comments as well, written comments, talking about, well, you know, are we still eating meat? This was from a vegan lover or something. And I didn't reply because that's not what this is all about. BEwell is about the connection, and the contribution is not about actually going and debating on strategies on because Keith spoke about nutrition, and this is not my field. So it's not me, it's not up to me to actually reply to all those comments. But anyway, it was a good video, a good talk, and we got a lot of response. So today we have Lock. Okay, let me introduce Lock. And today's talk is going to be decision making from the heart. And we're going to try and connect that in business and in life, but it's basically decision making. So let's read this short bio of Kay. Kay is a well-being and high-performance coach, an artist, and an adventurer. She used to need a wheelchair and then joyfully solo hiked across England. She used to ask permission to speak, and now she holds space for others to speak. Kay has learned to trust herself in all things and now supports others through their transformation. You can find her in lockkolp.com and Instagram, in LinkedIn, and so on. So welcome, Lock. Good morning to you. It's good afternoon to the other people. And so perhaps you'd like to sort of just go into today's topic about decision making, how important that is, and from the heart, from the head.
Well, I thank you so much, and I would love to. I think first, Gary, I would really like to take this opportunity to say thank you to you for what you are creating and bringing into the world. I mean, it's no surprise to me that Keith's, as we were just talking about, Keith's wonderful, which I'm sure was an absolutely wonderful talk. And now that I know about it, I'm going to have to go and watch it too. Got so many views, and that what you are doing, what you are bringing other people into, and I don't know, bringing into the world is really, really beautiful. And I am very honored and joyful to be a part of it. And it's really, I didn't know I was going to go here, but you know what's really interesting is the name Kay, which is not the name that I was born with.
Oh.
I chose it. And I think when I think about decision making from the heart, like we talk about in life and in business, right? For me, they're the same now. Life and business are the same. And when they weren't, I was really not well. I was really ill inside because I was trying to be something that I just wasn't. And becoming this person has you know, been pretty messy. And I think that the invitation for me has always been to really tune into my heart and to hear what that's a way of understanding what I really want and need in my life. And things go much, much better when I do that. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the reason I said business and life was actually to connect it to BEwell, which is basically business and entrepreneurial well-being. But I understand that there is no difference. There's business and life is just one thing. It's just life and the way you move and the way you make decisions. Okay. So maybe you can just explain a little bit, what is the difference when we make a decision using the head and using the heart?
thank you for this question. What a great question. For me, it's a difference in how it feels. Okay. So I, for a very long time, sort of took others' advice about, and I mean, some of it's great advice. It's nothing against the advice, but it's more like I took advice on how to create my business, and what I should, quote unquote, should be doing to bring more people in, or to expose people to, my business. So I have a podcast. It's called Practical Intuition with Kay right now. It used to be called We Turned Out Okay. And I did it. I created the podcast to help parents of young children, which is my background is in early childhood education. And so first of all, children are an outstanding way to witness people choosing from their heart. And I think there's a lot of good in what I created, but when I did it, I wasn't listening to my own self. I was sort of up here going like, well, they're saying that this is how you get more views. They're saying that this is how you get more downloads or whatever. And what was really interesting is, at its height, my show got quite a few downloads. I mean, like it was a well-known show. And I opened a parenting community on the back of that. And that was also gaining some really good traction when the pandemic hit. And then it became even more of a place for people to want to come and get advice and ideas on how to keep going with their young children in the pandemic. And at the same time, what happened for me was, I was not understanding why I was doing it from the inside and what might need to change. So I ended up getting pretty sick. I ended up needing to be hospitalized at the end of 2020 because I was not, like, the lack of care I was giving myself was resulting in just a complete ill health. Like I had an intestinal condition that we can talk about it if you want, but we don't have to. And so when I was listening to others about what my business should be and how much it should be making and how many people I should be my clients, those sorts of things, I was literally made sick. And only I was lying in the hospital going, you're going to die if you don't change something. And that was an opening, or kind of an invitation for me to come from a place other than my sort of what I think of as like my thinking brain, which wants things and isn't always the best. I love to consult with my thinking brain, but I don't like it to rule in here, because it will go after the things it thinks are going to be good, and my heart is the place where things I know are going to be good, or are good right now even. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, so when you go with your head, you become you're logical. You're being it's logic, reason, objective.
Yeah. Well, actually, so it's interesting. I think of the space created where I take my heart into consideration as objective. Like up here, it's very subjective. Like there are wants, there are needs that, it thinks it needs, right? Or it thinks it thinks are going to be good for me. And they're not always coming from an objective place. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I would have thought the heart is, the more subjective, with the emotions and aligned with values and so on, is with your heart. With your head, it's more the objective, risk-taking, the critical thinking.
What a great what a really interesting distinction. And everybody can look at it in our own ways, right? I want to make this clear too. I'm not inviting anybody to take on my beliefs about this, but what I notice is that, so once I did an exercise where I basically dropped out of my brain, and I asked myself two questions, and one was like, what's going on in my heart right now? What does my heart have to tell me? Like, what does my heart want me to know? And I just sort of, and I still do this sometimes, but the first time was so profound because my heart had messages for me that my brain didn't hear at all. And they were messages of love, of safety, of like a feeling of peace. It was so interesting. And then the second sort of question was to come down to like my gut and to ask, what does my gut have to say? What does my gut think about what's going on? Or what is my gut telling me? And the message from my gut was even different than the message from my heart. Really, the gut was all about like, you're safe, you're good, you're safe, you're grounded, you're okay. And like, if I were to consult back up in my head, there would be all these anxieties. There would be all this sort of like, like, what about this? What about that? And my heart and my gut were these two calm places where I could turn to understand what was really going on. You know, it's sort of like reading your own room is a way that I've heard of it.
So I suppose when you talk about gut, so there's gut feeling, intuition, yeah, where you can't even maybe describe this, or maybe you even tell people why you wanted to make, why you're taking that decision, because it's just the way you know, it's your intuition. Whereas this is what I'm trying to understand. So with your head, you can actually reason. You've got an idea. You're able to also maybe explain it or describe your feeling or your actions better. Heart is the emotion. Maybe it's just an immediate thing, immediate action taken because of emotional instincts. Do you say it that way? Is that what you're trying to define the three? When you make it,
I love this sort of and understanding too that all three have real good information for me. You know what I mean? What my intuition, what my gut tells me is very useful, as is the emotion that my heart can communicate, as is the intellect and the reason that my brain can contribute. I think since I've learned to come from my heart, I take more, I don't react, right? Like I don't immediately go. And there's a process of like, I've learned how to let my heart be open and feel safe regardless of what input is coming in. So for example, just a week ago today, somebody really dear to me passed away of Lou Gehrig's disease. And it happened to be at a time when our home was full of family, extended family, for a week. And I remember having the feeling of like, how do I process this with all of these people in my space? And then I immediately felt guilty. Like it's really knowing and hearing what's being said, what's being communicated, I think. So being able to hear without judgment, I feel guilty that I have this need, that these emotions are just coming out of me with all these people around, right? And to understand what's happening and to understand my feelings about it really gave me the courage to go to them and say, I'm going to ask for your understanding, because I don't even know how I'm feeling right now. I'm feeling so much. I'm glad he's free. What a life he's been living with this progressively destructive disease, right? And then I'm glad of that, but I'm also really sad because this person who's been so special to me isn't in my life anymore. And like, I was just crying all over the place. And their understanding, they're asking for their understanding and really knowing that was what I needed. It gave them the opportunity to say, like, of course, like, we love you, you know, do what you need to do. We get it. And what I actually did was I went down to my easel and I made a painting of a sunset, and I ended up naming it. It was for Bill, right? And I ended up naming it "Always Forward, Never Straight," because that was his expression of light. Like, it's always forward, but it's never straight. Like, you just never know what's going to happen. And I started that painting. Gary, I'm going to not swear. I'll do that.
I think Keith's a big boy. You can swear if you want. No problem. I'm sure
if I can swear, I would really love to, because when strong emotion comes up in me, that's how I'm feeling, right? So I was so fucking pissed off when I started that painting. I was so angry with the world. I was so angry that someone like this could have this disease, that they were taken from me, right? Like, all of these feelings, and the processing of doing the painting really helped me understand that letting those things pass through and not feeling bad about them, or sort of engaging with these emotions in any way other than to observe them as they pass through, really helped me understand that in the end, what I was really feeling was gratitude for this person in my life, and for the inspiration from him, because he was, you know, he was someone who, even in the most challenging times, just showed such courage and heart, and also tried to be a person for others to turn to for support. And the support was really listening. He was understanding that he could coach people with Lou Gehrig's because of what he'd been through and was going through. So it was really just, I think that's one really recent example of what decision making from your heart can look like.
So let me ask you another question. When we talk about decision making, where does decision making align with your values come into it?
Oh, again, these questions are awesome. So sometimes I don't even realize that I'm making a decision, or that there is a question, which I think is really, really interesting. I think I've learned to hear what the mind chatter is. And
so when you make a decision, Kay,
yeah.
Are you sort of aligning them with your values, or you just make decisions?
Yeah.
So I think how observant are you of your decision making?
And I think this is the heart of the question. So thank you. I have some values some really deeply held values that I basically apply decisions by looking through the lens of each of them. And this is, this has been some work. Where I'm landing these days is I feel like I have 5 really deeply held values. They are love, freedom, joy, patience, and presence. And so if a decision is if something needs to happen, or a decision needs to be made, what I do usually is I take myself out on a walk and I have a conversation with myself, or I have some version of usually being outside and having a conversation with myself. And I will say, okay, well, what does it look like if I'm applying, patience to this, what does that look like? If I'm applying joy to this, what does that look like? If I'm applying freedom to it, what does that look like? And it's been so useful because it's helped me decide where to place resources, for example, or what I really want my direction to be. It's been very helpful for making decisions. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm just, because I think you have to be in the moment. You have to be mindful when you actually make decisions in line with your values. Talking as an entrepreneur, after COVID, the business was struggling, and so I had to lay off some people, and it wasn't easy laying off people who'd been working in your team for the last 8-10 years.
Yeah.
But I think of the well-being of everyone, and not just these people, even though I was quite close to them. And some of them had mortgages, and some of them had children, and some of them had, they'd come straight out of college or university straight into the business. So I felt like a father figure. I felt responsible for them. Yet I had to also make the decision to understand that you persevere or you pivot in a business sense. So if I'd persevered, it would have meant keeping everyone and then just not going into the unknown, not knowing how long it would take and how long we could resist, and so I decided to pivot, and that meant leaving some people at home. But there were nights, there were weeks when I didn't sleep because I was thinking of all their situation, what they were going through, or what they would be going through for my decision to lay them off.
Yeah.
And so it was very difficult because my values was just to keep everyone together and, let's put a brave face and let's go through but in the end. So my question to you is, sometimes do decision making, does it go against your values, and is that okay?
So interesting. Yeah. So if I were to ask you, Gary, in that situation, were there deeper values that you ended up realizing you needed to choose or to move toward?
Yeah, I think that's a good question there, because there are values and then there are deeper values, let's say, the values that we say to everyone, and then you get into that situation, then realize there are other values that hold more sway on your decision making. And I think it was also maybe in a way not to fail, not to go bankrupt, because we were going so close to that level that we could have gone bankrupt. What my accountant said at the end of the year, just go bankrupt. And I felt like a blotch on my on 25 years running my business, going bankrupt.
Yeah.
And I thought, do I need to do that? Do we really need to do that? And he said, well, that's one way of getting your money back, that your capital that you put into the company was to go bankrupt, and all those debitors would pay you back. And it just went against everything that I thought of myself, or of 25 years of sacrifice, of hard work, of energy, of focus, and all that kind of stuff. And so you're right, maybe there was a deeper value. I was thinking of, integrity and honesty and transparency. That's what we all say. But there was a deeper value that I needed to put up above those.
Yeah. I mean, when I think about values, I think that our values that we hold are all kind of, if you look at it, through a different lens, they're all different ways of feeling good that we have of choosing, to feel good. And what you did ultimately, the choice that you made, you had to let go of some things that were stopping that from happening. And if we look at the good that you also kept in the world, right? You didn't let everybody go. You didn't close the school. You didn't, right? You made a decision that while it was gonna be hard for some people, it was obviously hard for everyone because coworkers are losing coworkers is maybe one way to look at it. But the other thing is, and I'm curious how you'll think about this. Something I've been thinking a lot on lately is the difference between compassion and worry. And if we are lying awake at night worrying about, like I did this in the hospital, I was like, they're going to be who will help them if I'm not available to help them? And I closed this parenting community, which is really what came to me in late 2020 was, I'm going to have to close this community to survive for myself. Right. And they were wonderful about it. They were really like, thank you for role modeling, self-care and things like that. And I think about, ultimately the decision that you, Gary, made in that instance was best for you, was best for your business, and maybe was best for everyone. I don't know how you would see that, but or how they like, I would be curious how they would answer that. Like, oh, after I ended up leaving your workplace, I found this other, wonderful place, and the references that I got and the friendships that I made, like, I don't know.
Let's Keith, you got any comments on this? Let's get you talking as well, because you'll fall asleep otherwise.
I won't fall asleep till later tonight.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we're all here on a soul contract anyway, and a lot of the decisions we make are probably part of that soul contract, except we don't always get to know what that was, or we don't remember when we did that soul contract. Lots of people are here for a particular reason, and we have a particular thing to do, but you don't necessarily know it. But if you're connected to your soul contract, if you're connected to Creator, you're sort of going to be guided well in what you're doing, and the decisions you make aren't generally going to be bad ones. You don't know that something happens, you don't realize that why that happened until maybe several weeks or several months later, or maybe even several years later, because things are happening for a reason, and we're being guided in a certain direction all the time. And you can worry a lot about it now, but later on you realize, well, that was the right thing to do. But you have to listen to your sixth sense, you have to listen to your gut, as the saying goes, and you have to be guided by your Creator.
Yeah, I think it's right to say that there's no right and there's wrong. It's like every decision you make is with intention, with a good intention. Even my intention to lay off people was the intention to keep the ship afloat.
Yeah.
Because by trying keeping everyone on, maybe the ship just couldn't keep afloat with everyone on board. And so if we've survived another 6 months, let's say until now, it's because I had to unload a few people in June, July of time, and make the ship a little bit lean, and so we can start actually floating on the water instead of going under the water. So, as Keith said, whether it was right or wrong, I don't know, and I probably will know later on. It seems, it was a way.
Beautifully said.
Or everyone would be going, so that'd be worse.
Yeah. Maitri, you got any thoughts of this, Maitri?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, nice to see you. Nice to see you. Yeah, we were just talking about sometimes, taking decisions in line with your values, and the values that you say that you have, like Kay said, love, freedom, patience, joy, until you get into a situation where you have to go so deep in those, you find other values that have more value, let's say, more, than the ones that you say.
Yeah, I was thoroughly enjoying Kay's statement about her journey and the way she's looking to the world. More people we are looking for like you. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Kay. Yeah, one question I'd like to ask, that what is happening maximum time I am offering much more importance to my values rather than financial gain. So whenever maybe I'm not much, as an entrepreneur, I couldn't establish, but yeah, people got to know me about my service, and in emergency, I'm always available for them. But somehow, sometimes I'm thinking that, is there any opportunity that I need to change my approach to the emergency or to the service to the society, that there should be some balance, but 99% I couldn't make it, because when there is a problem, I just jump on it. I kept aside my values and, my feelings, my emotions, but rather I'm giving priorities to their, it's easy for me to put my feet to their shoes. I don't know why, since childhood, but as an entrepreneur, it's a bad decision, I know. So is there any recommendation that any improvement I need to work some areas that, or I need to go like this? Thank you.
So let me understand that correctly. So your decision making is based on other people's needs rather than yours?
Yes.
Is that the question?
Yeah, that was the question. Yes. So I was always looking for first help, and then probably I will take care of my, let it be. That is a secondary. My primary concern is just to help as soon as possible right now. If 12 p.m. is people are calling, I will jump to it. I'm not considering my health, my food, my sleep time. I will just come and open my laptop and just say that send me the link, or I'm sending you the link, come right now. So I'm hampering other things also, because being a mom, it's very difficult. Right now, I was preparing dinner, but I couldn't resist myself to come and join because it was so beautiful discussion. So thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, Kate, do you want to take that?
Oh, yes, please. Thank you. And just so I'm clear, Maitri, right? Maitri. The question is, how do I take care of myself and make sure that I'm okay? Even before I'm making sure that others are okay, right?
Yeah.
What
I'm
a
always
fabulous
okay,
question.
but sometimes I'm always okay. In zero also I'm okay. Maybe that is my drawback as an entrepreneur. I don't know.
I mean, like, it's so interesting. This has really been, I think, one of the major pieces of my learning on this journey is I can only support others as well as I'm feeling. So it's become really important for me to have a full cup. And I used to not even be able to say those words. Like I used, I mean, actually, I would. The other thing that comes to mind is the reason I chose this painting that I painted the summer before last. It's of a lighthouse, a very special lighthouse for me. It's the easternmost lighthouse in the United States. It's called West Quoddy Head Light, and I stood at the base of it and looked up at it, and it was the cutest lighthouse. I could not get over the cuteness, and I have always had a thing about lighthouses. My husband and I, my life partner, at that point had been married for 25 years, and we were on a holiday, and like just the resources to get there was a form of self-care. Like it really, we freed up these resources so that we could go and do this really wonderful thing that kind of spoke to us. And the more I do that, the better, right? And the other thing is I ended up putting this as my background today because I was interviewing someone for my show, and which Gary's going to be on my show early in the new year. So that'll be something to stay tuned for. And my the woman who was on my show talked about she's a digital nomad. She's in her 50s and she used to be an executive in a bank, and now she is like, she's solo traveling the world while her partner, her life partner, is circumnavigating the globe in a sailing race. Like, so it's this really interesting sort of gutsy thing to do, right? And she says, what I used to do was just try to serve everybody first. I'd try to solve everybody's problems. I'm a fixer, like, and she said, the way I think about it now is I'm a lighthouse. What I do is I shine my light out, and I don't, that's all I do. And the quality of that light is only stronger when the lighthouse is being cared for, right? And I got to thinking about how, like, the lighthouse does not stride out into the sea to pull in the people that it thinks needs to be rescued. It simply shines its light. And the healthier that light is, the more people can get help. So I don't know if that helps. Maitri, it feels like it's a little metaphorical, but yeah, I'd love your thoughts.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I love metaphorical thoughts. So it's really working. Like I can see the lighthouse behind that. Is it your painting, right? You're talking about?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing. So maybe sorry, Gary, go on.
Got a very good hobby that she takes photographs, if I remember correctly, and then she paints the photographs.
So, yeah, sometimes, and then sometimes I also do something called en plein air, which is like I'm there making the painting. So, and sometimes it's a hybrid. So thank you.
Maybe paintings and photographs and wildlife tour, maybe the sources of energy. I'm on the same line. So I'm happy, but is my happiness matter? It is matters to me, But when I'm talking about as an entrepreneur role, or maybe profit or loss, then I'm getting stuck. So thank you for your answer. I got
You
it.
know, something else comes to mind too about money specifically.
Yeah.
So I used to feel not worthy of making money.
Yeah.
I used to feel like it's just, I didn't feel worthy. The story I told myself was, you know, you can't make money, your services aren't worth it, your art isn't worth it. And where I'm kind of landing these days is money is a friend of mine. I once
Yeah.
heard a podcast episode where the host, it was like a little 8-minute, maybe something like that. And the guy's name is Michael Neal, pretty sure Michael Neal. And it was called The Currency of Joy. And he talked about how somebody looked into his wallet once and went through the money in his wallet and said, "You're good because all this money came to you with joy."
Yeah.
And I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I can get behind that. I can
Yeah.
accept the currency of joy. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes,
And to
yes.
think of money as a
Yes.
friend and as something that it's good to have come to me, and it's an exchange of the value that I provide has been really helpful. So that's
Yes,
helpful as an
yes.
entrepreneur, you know, too.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So
Let's
sweet.
ask
Thank you.
Keith, what's your relationship with money? How do you see that?
I just work on the assumption that everything will be fine.
I love it. Very
And for-
present moment, Keith.
And for military, in an aircraft, they're always telling you to put on your own mask first before you can help others. And I think also your feet might be very small because they fit everyone else's shoes. You should be like me and have size 12. You won't fit too many people's shoes on my feet.
You know what? But in a way, I don't know if you guys have read this book. I think it's called Keep Your Love On. Keep Your Love On by Danny Silk. Anyway, and he mentions this thing about helping people and being the savior and rescuing people and, you know, that kind of stuff. Like something I used to do. I was like a big on that because I'd been through some stuff. And I thought nothing brought me down until now. So whatever you got, give it to me. I'll deal with it. And so I was the big rescuer for my family, for friends, at work. Gary arrived, he could do anything. And that's the way it was. And I was helping people. That's the way I felt. And it was, and people took advantage. Some people took advantage. People didn't grow because they said, Gary will do it. And then I thought myself, and this is a great metaphor, like, you know, I've got 3 children. And why did I get them to start walking? I could have carried them. I used to carry them, but I got them to walk. But why did I do that? I asked myself. So it made it lighter on myself, right? Because when they could walk, then they could run, then they could go on a bicycle, and so on, so on, so on, so on. And so my job was to actually get them to do that rather than just carry them. Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about helping other people, our help and being there, putting other people in front of us, is to understand, are we doing right by them by taking away that growth, that possibility for them to grow by doing it for them?
Yeah.
And when I understood that, that's in that book there as well. When I started actually reflecting on that, I started taking a step back from my 3 children first and started getting them to do, you know, they'd ask me things and I said, why can't you do that? Because before I would do it. I would do everything. Anything that they needed, they would just say, Dad, and I'd say, leave it, I'll do it and I'll get back to you. And I'd phone up people and I'd get this and get their skis and do everything for them. And then I stood back and I understood that they can do it much better than me. And I saw them growing so quickly. And actually now they're asking me, Dad, do you need anything? And I said, yeah, a cup of tea, please. And it's brilliant. It's great.
You trained them well.
No, I gave them the space to grow.
If they were only ever going where you carried them, they would never make their own journey.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Maitri, when you're running and helping people, you know, as soon as they snap their fingers, you have to ask yourself, are you really doing them a service, or are you doing them a disservice?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a reflection. It's a question.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
And
as such, touch wood, no, as such bad memories or experience I'm having. But sometimes when I'm alone, I'm thinking that whether I'm doing it right now. As you said that children, I'm having 2 kids now. In this way, the reflection is there. They have seen my growth and my journey. Now I'm learning a lot from them. They're a guiding force for me. And as you say, tea, coffee, yes, more than I'm getting, because sometimes when I'm alone, they will search for my some books, which is I love to read actually. So they will go to the Amazon and they will find some good books and make a surprise. So these things are happening. See, my demand from life is very simple. Maybe in this way, I'm not looking in a bigger way. Uh, Everybody has their own, demands, like expectations. Maybe sudden things happen that my expectations become very, you know, always my mom used to say that eat simple, think, and think big. So maybe that is that is my food habit is so simple, you all will laugh. So maybe I'm not concentrating on expensive things, expensive dresses, or I don't feel comfortable. Rather, it's okay for me to pay somebody if they're looking for, or I don't have money, still I'm paying. So maybe I'm looking for their smile, their happiness. That is precious for me. I'm not a good entrepreneur.
You know what immediately comes up for me, Maitri, and this is so referencing what you were just saying, Gary. How we are in life is how we also are in business, I think.
Yeah.
And so like a story that's coming up for me is about a year ago, one of my kids was going through something really, really hard for them. And they made some decisions that were awesome. And they made them in the middle of the night, because that's when these things always happen, right? And I remember going back to my partner and basically sobbing. I was like, it's so hard to watch him go through this, and I'm so proud of him. And my husband said, you taught him how to fish. Like he asked me for advice, our child. And I instead I basically said, like, well, okay, let's what do you most want here? Like what feels most important for you? And he went with that. And like, in my experience, I don't know how you feel about this, Gary, or Keith too, if you're running your own business, but like my family has been, I'm much less able to be objective with my family. So I'm much more like, I'll see something that I want for them, and it's much harder for me to sort of sit on that and just naturally let them kind of come to their own, see their own path or come their own way. So I felt on reflecting on that moment when my husband said that you taught him how to fish, and I would say we taught him how to fish. It wasn't just me, right? But getting to that point with my children and my partner, where I can say, what do you want here, has made everything. It's a good way of being in my business as well. And teaching people how to fish feels a lot better than always having to be the fisher person.
It's quicker to fish for them or to give them a fish. It's quicker. And that's probably why we do it, because it's also instant gratification. Like, if I carry my son, instead of him walking, he would say, oh, wow, what a life. Dad's carrying me. And, and I'm thinking, oh, he's happy, so I'm happy. I'm getting tired, and we can't go far, we can't go fast. And after a while, I started getting angry, and I started getting frustrated, and I just throw him on the floor and say, why don't you walk? And he might say, well, I don't know how to walk. You've never let me walk. You've never taught me how to walk. How can I walk? So in that moment, there is the realization that perhaps I should have stepped back much before and helped them or taught them how to walk, to stand up. And I think that's very important today when people come and ask for help, is asking the question, like, what do you want? And what are you willing to do to get what you want?
Mm.
And those people say, I want to be a millionaire. Of course you can. Why not? Why not? Well, what are you willing to do to become a millionaire?
Mm. And to extend that a little bit more, like, what do you envision being a millionaire will do for you that you don't have now in your life? And can you have the feelings of being a millionaire, as you're creating that for yourself? Like, it's so interesting. The layers of this are so interesting. And Keith, what you said something before too, that I feels like it's coming back now, which is about, like, they can feel angry when we are carrying them, right? They can feel like, and that's not exactly how you said it, but the idea that, like, people wanting to be independent and wanting to be able to grow the ways that they want to grow. I think that's really interesting too.
What was the question, Kay? I didn't. What was the?
It was, it was less of a question and more of just a reflection. Like, I think this is such an interesting conversation. I'm seeing things that, I hadn't seen in quite the same way before. So
Let me ask you a question. Talking about decision making, going back to our decision making, that was the topic. How when you're taking a decision or you're making a decision, do you take into account other people's viewpoints or not?
I mean, I would say absolutely. And I do it in a way that I did, like, what I've really learned for myself is either I'm going to ask a question that's going to get me what I need, but I'm always going to ask it in a way that makes somebody else comfortable. And you know what? I kind of want to go a little deep here, if it's okay. So in February, there was a night where I gave serious consideration to taking my own life. And I did it. I was thinking that way because I felt very alone in terms of not able to share my deepest feelings or my deepest dreams with people that I'm trying to keep everybody safe here, right? Like, protected, like, from being talked about. But I didn't feel able to share with anyone my deepest dreams or the things I most wanted. And someone in my life saw that and asked a really objective question and helped me, once we got to talking, right, helped me craft a question that I could ask the people in my life in order to establish communication in a way that felt safe for them. So the question that I ended up landing on was, what do you need to support me in doing the things that I feel inspired to do? And at its heart, it's such an interesting and quite selfish question, right? Like, because I'm getting what I need, but what I'm really doing is finding out what they need, and then I can serve them and help them help them get what they need. Because the answers that came back, like, for example, one person I do have permission to share about is my son, who asked that if I was in a place where I looked emotionally distressed. He's studying to be a paramedic. He's an EMT. He works in an emergency room, so he thinks life and death all the time. So if he sees his mom in distress, what he wanted to be able to do was give me a thumbs up. And if I gave him a thumbs up, that would mean I was okay and he didn't need to worry about me, because I'm expressing emotion all over the world, right? Like, all over the place. And it was so useful to know what he needed and be able to give him that. And I was also getting what I needed. So yes, I absolutely do take other people into my decisions. Sometimes it's as simple as saying, like, what do you need in this situation? Like, what will help you feel more comfortable? I have no attachment to where we, move. What feels like an interesting place to move for you, or whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and in my experience, that sometimes people are not, I could ask the call, what do you need me to do to help you to get better, or whatever it is. But sometimes the other person is not able to answer that question. And you come to some sort of realization sometimes as well. Each one I did on a personal level a couple of years ago, when a person wanted to take their life. I just came to the realization there's nothing I could do. It's like I could be there, But if someone wants to go, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Mm.
And I think when I realized that, that was such a big weight off me, because again, I was the rescuer. I was what we were saying before. I could take on people's burdens, and I didn't feel the weight. But at that moment, when I just decided I can't do any more, and I can't do. I'm not. Who am I? I'm no one. I can't do any more than what I'm doing, i.e., just being here. If that person wants to come to me, I'm here. If not, it might seem a little bit selfish, or it might seem a little bit sort of cold and cynical, but it was what I felt at the time. And it actually got me through that difficult moment, because I was going down as well. It was like that person was going down, but that person was taking me down too.
Right. And for you to be able to say, and thank you for sharing that, Gary, for you to be able to say, I see you with so much compassion, and I'm recognizing that your decision is your decision, and I'm here to listen, and I'm here to witness. And that's what I can do for you. Right. And what that does is it frees the other person up to feel loved, to feel the compassion, right? If they can, and to make their decision. And I want to say too, the question that I was there was a point at which I wanted to ask a question: what do I need? What do you need so that I can support you in having dreams? And I was asked by my coach, actually, like, well, is that your wish for them, or is that their wish? And I was like, oh shit, that's my wish for them. Like, they wanted something very different. They wanted something, right, like that wasn't what I wanted for them. And it's sort of coming back to that, helping people feel like they can communicate and share and be heard and seen, I think, is what we're talking about here.
Keith, compassion in decision making, compassion, empathy.
If that's your makeup, you're always going to incorporate that. There's different personalities: the reds, the blues, the greens, and the yellows. So depending on what your personality, if you're a yellow, you're always going to be incorporating everyone else and putting them before you. If you're a red, you're just going to make the decision and plow on with it. If you're a green, you're going to analyze every part of every decision before you make a decision. And if you're a blue, if it's not fun, just count me out. So your personality makeup is going to determine a lot about the way you do anything.
Keith, quick question: do you feel like people can change something about their makeup if they would wish?
It depends on the ratio. If you have a very strong ratio in one direction, and you understand the differences, you might be able to peel yourself back a little bit. Sometimes people can, if they understand the personality colors, they can actually alter themselves a bit depending on who they're dealing with. So if you have a yellow trying to deal with a green, or trying to deal with a red, they will walk all over them unless they alter themselves a bit, and the same the opposite way around. But personality traits probably play a big part in the way some people address things.
Yeah, I think observing yourself, and that's very important in your decision. In decision making as well, the question is how important is adapting and being flexible to situations, to information? How important is that in decision making? Okay.
I think it's really important, like maybe the most important thing, because, well, one of them, because if I think something can only go one way, I mean, first of all, there's lots and lots of ways that I think I used to think a lot in dichotomies. It's either this or it's that. There's no range in between these two choices. And the understanding that, like, when I can say to the people around me, or the person, who I'm serving in a business sense, if I can say to them, like, well, what options do you see here? There's a really fun game I love to play called the game of 8, which is basically you ask a question: how can we, I don't know, how can we make $1 million? Or how can we, any question, literally. And then as fast as you can, you come up with 8 of the 8 options, and you don't let yourself edit. You just say, like, well, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. And I just did this recently for myself. And I just did it recently in a client situation. And it's really, really cool to see the responses that people come up with and then what they do with them. Because a lot of times people are like, oh my God, I never thought of that. Wow, I could do that.
But those are the decision makings, but they're just the initial decision making, right? Until you get more information or you understand the circumstance, and then you modify those decisions, right? Is that what we're saying? Yeah.
I think it's all along. You know, for example, I used to think that every part of coaching had to be done a certain way, and it had to be done in a very formal way. It had to be done in a way that wasn't me. And I just signed, pardon me, I just signed what I call an agreement with a new client yesterday, for example. And it's not a contract, it's an agreement. And there's an important distinction, because agreements can be changed when someone feels like they need to be changed. Also, I can incorporate expressions like messy is sexy into an agreement, which I think I might have a harder time putting in something called a contract. So yeah, the ability to be adaptive and flexible makes decisions, I feel like, a lot easier, more playful. You're taking some pressure off yourself if you're looking outside of what you think is ironclad and must be true. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I speak as an entrepreneur, because as running my business here and being flexible and being adapting to what's happening, what's happened after COVID, and getting more information, understanding the market's changed, what's out there, what are we offering, is what we are offering still needed, still wanted by the market? Yes, no, changing, and then okay, getting more information, getting this information on board, and then making a decision to pivot and not persevere. So again, I think that was very important as well, to actually being flexible in life and adapting as well when we make those decisions. That's
so interesting, because our topic is from the heart, right? Like, do you see, I would be really curious about all of you. When you're adapting, when you're making decisions, do you consult different, like, are you creative about where the ideas come from or how you make those decisions, if that makes any sense?
I don't know. So we talk about the head, we talk about the heart, and we're talking about the gut.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So those three. So Maitri, do you go with gut sort of feelings? Do you go from the heart, emotional, or do you go through a logic head?
Or combine them,
Yeah, it's a combination, because based on the environment, what is more important, and if it is not emergency, then I'd like to take some time for the reflection about the situation and analyze, and then probably I will go, which is good for, for the situation. That, so every time heart and mind may not be working, but it's a balance between these four altogether. So this is the way what I'm talking about. And I have seen my parents in this way. So in emergency also, I just think that, okay, if both they were with me, I think I've lost them both, but always I'm looking after the way they took decision in a major crisis, or I try to reflect, I try to get the knowledge that what was the process. Okay, if mom and dad would be with me, then how they're going to take. So it will be easy for me to take. And obviously emergency in this way I'm thinking, but in normal reflection, maximum time.
Yeah.
Taking time.
What about you? Head, heart, gut?
Like Maitri, a little bit of everything. I like not to have to make snap decisions, because act in haste, repent at leisure. And you can, if you can sort of take a little bit of time over something, if you have the time to spare, well, then you can reflect on it and you'll see, does it feel right? And I think if you make a snap decision, it can often be the wrong one.
So we're talking about balance. Yeah, we're talking about balance, and Yeah, there are. I like to go with the gut feeling, risk taking, adventure. I love all of that. It's like, you know, it's like having a dog and giving them a ball and, oh yeah, let's go for it, jump in, and think, oh my God, no, I've done, no, go back. And so knowing that as well, which is very important, means that you have people around you who do question you and hold you accountable. And so I always tell, I told the team as well before we let a lot of people go. I said, we sat down and we had a values session. And I said, listen, tell me, this is what I think of myself. Do you guys see this in my actions? Yes, we do. And so I said, these are positive and these are negatives as well. So and I love taking risks. It's something that just comes naturally. If you say, go down the road that you know and go down the road you don't know, I'll take the one I don't know. It's just instant, it's just stronger than me because I want to know. And I'll go down there and suddenly find there's a big hole in that road and I'm going to come back. But I'll do that. It's what attracts me. So I tell them. So I think also knowing yourself and knowing your strengths and your weaknesses and your values and so on are very important in taking decisions.
Yeah.
So listen, we're coming to the end. It's a very interesting conversation we've had. I hope everyone's enjoyed it. Thank you, Kay, coming along, Keith and Maitri and Mariam as well, who jumped off. The video is going to be on the YouTube, so if you want to use it, you want to go back and watch it, and hopefully we'll get 1,500 Ks like Keith got on his video, because he got that. I think it was just him and his friends just going and clicking non-stop. But anyway, let's not say that. But anyway, it was a success. No BEwell next week because I'm going to be in London. And I'm going to try and actually do the BEwell face-to-face next week. Let me see what happens there. I'll put it out, and it might get one person, 2 people, might get 50. I don't know who's going to turn up, and I'm just going to take it and see how it goes with this kind of format, which is basically connecting and contributing. That's what I'm doing here. So thank you for being here. When you see the BEwell proposals, try and share it with your contacts. It would be really helpful, and so bring more people on here.
And super quick, what an honor and a joy it has been to have this conversation. And I think I've come to, like, it doesn't matter if it's one person or 1,500 people or whatever, like, to be able to make a connection with somebody. Oh, that feels good. So thank you for connecting with me today. I appreciate it.
Where are you calling from, Kay? Where are you now?
I'm in Massachusetts, USA.
Massachusetts. Keith, you're in?
Ireland.
In Ireland. Maitri?
I'm from India, Mumbai.
Mumbai, and I'm in Italy. Isn't that great?
What a cool world we live in.
What a global conversation we're having. Dublin, Mumbai, Verona, Italy, and Massachusetts.
Sometimes it's when it is super beautiful, that attracts me. So you can see I was making white bread. I just came in the sea. I couldn't wash my hands. I just dumped.
No worries. Well, we'll let you go back to cooking. We'll let you go back.
So glad you're here.
It was interesting, so I had to come. That's what.
Do you want our address? Do you want our address? You can send us out some loaves of bread.
Yes, we'd love some loaves of bread, please.
Sure. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, have a nice evening, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, friends.
Bye.